Men, and as usual, I use the term ever so loosely. Hey, we're going to take a short trip today. We're going to go to the land of sketchy setups. The sketchy setup won't be on the Harbor Freight press. The sketchy setups will be out on the milling machine and the lathe. I got this idea from watching another YouTube video. A fellow there, Topper Machine, has a YouTube channel, and he had milled a set of these. Well, he didn't mill them, he lathed them, but a customer of his had given him a set of these Harbor Freight pressing plates to flatten for him. And these had a hump on one side and a bow on the other side. And I've been dicking with them, and I've already machined down the hump side first. I used the lathe on this side and the mill on this side, and like I say, the lathe part of this thing is especially sketchy. You know, he has some pretty big heavy equipment and it was no big deal for him. For me, this is really pushing the limit of my machine. But anyway, I'm going to go show you how I did it because it is kind of informative. It might be halfway interesting to a guy doing a little home machining. But anyway, I'll give credit to the original idea to Josh Topper on his YouTube channel, and I copied the idea. Welcome to Sketchy Land. I got the pressing plate out of the Harbor Freight press chucked up in my 4-jaw. The jaws are turned around so they're grabbing it from the outside and the valleys of all of the cutouts on it. As you would expect, this thing is out of balance like you wouldn't believe. Hence, toe clamps held with U-bolts to the jaws of the chuck. Put the lathe in neutral, and it really seems like it balances pretty well for the most part. Obviously it's not perfect, but it's not bad either. It'll work anyway. Well, I hope it'll work. Alright, back in gear. Even more sketchy, the cutting tool is very far extended from the tool holder, which it needs to be in order to clear the carriage. I've got some cardboard here. Like I said, I did one side of these a few days ago to see how it would work, and I know what the problems are going to be now. And this thing is going to throw little chips of cast iron everywhere. Spent quite a bit of time cleaning the machine up, so I got some cardboard here to keep it out of the more sensitive areas. I also, in this plastic bag, is a chunk of a big magnet that, believe it or not, is part of a magnet broken off of an 80s era IBM hard drive. And back in those days, hard drives were like 256K and 2.5, 3 feet across, and they were driven with big 3-phase motors. And this magnet, before it got broken, was probably twice as long. So we're just going to set it down over here, and hopefully a lot of the cast iron chips will end up stuck to it instead of flying all around the universe. I think we're ready to go. And yeah, I think we're ready to go. I'm going to fire the lathe up here in a minute. I'm going to power feed it. This is the dished out side. The side with the hump, I had to take 80 thousandths of an inch off to get the hump flattened out. So hopefully I won't have to take quite so much off of this side. And success in this project will be measured by 3 things. Number 1, I don't want to hurt myself. Number 2, I don't want to break any of my equipment. And number 3, I'd like this to come out sort of flat. I know it's not going to be perfectly flat, but sort of flat would be nice. So, all right then. Let's fire this up and see how I make out. Contact. The plate is hitting a piece of cardboard. As the cutting tool gets closer to the center of the piece, the workpiece, the surface speed is going to go down. I'm at 255 RPM. I know that I could do 300 RPM on this without a problem. I'm going to crank it up a little bit as I go in. That's about 275. All right, I'm almost not cutting anything right now because I've moved into the center of the dish, the low spot. Disengaging the power feed, cranking it in. All right, we're going to crank it back out and dial in another 10 thousandths. Oh, that's not bad at all. You can see I'm cutting on both sides, not cutting in the middle. To be expected. Anyway, you get the idea. I'll go ahead and finish this off camera, and when I get close, I'll show you where I'm at. Just this little area left here. I've done about 8-10 passes, taken 10 thou off at each pass. Could I have taken more? Not on this lathe. I don't think I could have. I take as much as it's making happy sounds. You know, you go any more than that, and it starts to play havoc with the motor, and it just wasn't working good. I had to sharpen the tool 2 or 3 or 4 times during the middle of this. It starts screeching real bad, and a little quick touch up on the green wheel had it going good. So I think we're going to make the last pass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch off, pull the cutting tool away from the workpiece, dial in another 10 thou, and see what happens. And you can see why I didn't video most of this. Very boring. Just ever so slight of an area there that didn't clean up, but you know what? That's going to be just fine. I'm going to reverse the machine, take a spring pass and power feed it out. Oh, and look at all my chips. I think when I slapped the magnet on the cross side, it turned the whole thing into a magnet, and all the chips are staying at attention now. Well, and there you have it. It's actually a halfway decent surface finish. You know, this is not, I'm sure this is the limit of what this machine could do. This is not the kind of job I'd want to do in it every day. But, you know, if I had to, I know that I can now. Counterweights made all the difference in the world. Like I said, the balance on this thing isn't too bad. Wouldn't want to do it for fun, but you know, now that I know that I can, if I need to, I will. Let's look at the giant pile of, let's look at the giant pile of fuzz. The magnet attracted a fair amount of chips. I thought it would attract more. All these little bits standing at attention. Like I say, I think this whole piece of steel is a magnet now. But yeah, it worked. Very happy with it. Didn't break anything, didn't hurt myself, and the surface looks mostly flat. So I accomplished my goals. Took 80 thousandths off of this side, probably 100 thousandths off of this side. So that's a lot of material to get these things to be almost flat. You know, I'm not dumb enough to say that they're perfectly flat, but they're much flatter than they were. And now when I go to press connecting rod bearing races in and out, I think they'll drive better sitting on a much flatter surface. I got the other pressing plate clamped up in the mill. I got a face mill in here. We're gonna face it off to try to get it flat. This setup much easier than the setup in the lathe. So we'll give this a try. I actually already made a couple passes, but we'll give this a try and see how it works. I gotta use my deflector, otherwise the chips fly off, they hit me. They're hot. I'm sure you get the idea. I'll bring it back when I move the clamps. I've taken 50 thou off of this so far, and there's a spot right here, pretty much dead nuts in the middle, where it's not cutting at all. So 50 thou, and we're still not cleaning the whole thing up yet. Interesting. All right, here's the two plates. This is the one I just got done with. The face mill did pretty good. There's really no detectable ridge from where one cut began and the other one left off. It is within 5 thousandths. I got a corner over here, 1.052, and a corner over here, 1.057. So 5 thou. And then 1.056 and 1.054. So this one's not bad. Within 5 thou, I could live with that. Here is the one that I did a couple days ago, and this is not acceptable. I go from 1.042 to 1.067, and I think I'm going to attribute that to cutting it on the lathe. This was the first one. Well, I did this side with the a fly cutter, and I did the other side on the lathe, and I think getting it flat up against the jaws of the chuck was a problem on this one. This one I went through a little more extensive effort to get it flat up against the jaws on the 4-jaw chuck. I used the nose of the of a big drill chuck in the tailstock to push it into the chuck. This one I tried tapping it in. And because of this low corner, geez, that's 10 thousandths difference. I think I'm going to have to throw them both back on the mill, and I'm going to use the face mill to skim off this extra material over here and try to get this flatter. You know, I could show you that, but it's kind of boring, and you know, you've already seen it. I am going to change the way I clamp them up in there. And you may recall when I was milling this one that I had locked the quill down at a certain number, whatever it was, and that it drifted a couple of thou. For the last pass I made on this, I used a little bit of a cheater on the locking bar for the quill, and the digital readout didn't move at all. So you gotta have it really, really, really fucking tight. But anyway, I'm going to do a little more work and skim a little metal off of this one and skim a little metal of this one, so they'll both be the same, and hopefully we'll be good to go. All right, so here's the final product of my labor over here. Don't look at this one. Everything else is pretty good. 1.032, 1.032, 1.032, 1.031, 1.031, 1.030, 1.031. So all of this, don't look at this one, is within a thousandth. That's not bad. I don't know how the fuck this happened. 1.021, and I measured it several times. There's actually a little step right here. Kind of creeps in beginning down here. I could only assume that something was under this corner and this corner was higher when the cutter passed over it. But compared to the, you know, eighth of an inch they were out of whack previously, I'm pretty happy with that. Look at the surface finish on this and the surface finish on this. I think the carbide was getting dull over here, and I switched to a fresh carbide on this cut, on these cuts over here. Here's the reverse lathe cut sides, and these look like ripples. Well, I guess they are ever so slightly rippled. I think I did this one first. Yeah, I think I did this one first, and I didn't have it balanced nearly as well as I did when I did the second one. Now, you know what? This is the second one I did. Yeah, this is the second one. And you guys saw this hole spinning off center on this thing. Somewhere along the way, I needed to drive a shaft through something, and I just drilled a hole. There was no effort to put it in the center whatsoever. And I got a threaded hole over here. And I don't know, for something else I needed a threaded hole. I don't know why, but anyway, that's why it's got those holes in it. But yeah, this one was actually shaking worse than this one, and I would have thought that this one would come out smoother. But the one that vibrated worse actually came out a little smoother. How do you figure that? Beats the hell out of me. You know, did this need to be done? Probably not. You know, most of that was just experimenting. And just FYI, I have a Smithy 3-in-1 lathe mill drill. It's a Granite 1324. The mill is nearly totally worthless. There's no way that I could have milled the other side of these like I did on the actual mill. You know, it's a round column mill. It won't stay clamped down straight. It's just not a very good mill. I mean, if you're buying one of these things, you can mill small things. Aluminum is okay. A big chunk of steel like this, it doesn't have enough travel to do this all in one shot. You know, it's just enough to drive you crazy. Hence the reason I have a real mill, although some people would say the real mill isn't really a mill either. But it's a Smithy MI, what is it, MI409MZ, and I'm pretty happy with it. Square column mill, is heavy duty enough to do all of this shit on this side, and it came out halfway decent. The other two seams, like here and here, can't even feel them. I don't know what the fuck happened over here, but something happened, and all I know is I'm not gonna mill it some more. This took way longer than it should have, but I am an amateur machinist, so that's what you'd expect. Thanks to Josh Topper giving me the motivation to do something about these crappy ass pressing plates. Of course, on his machine it was much easier, bigger, heavier machine. Vibration was not an issue. Could take more off with each pass. If you're buying equipment, I think bigger and heavier is always better. Get the biggest, heaviest piece of machinery you could possibly afford, and you'll be more well served. Okay, just a quick word about the tooling. My first attempt at flattening these plates out was with this fly cutter. It's probably way bigger than this mill was meant to use. Not particularly good results. Not at all. I mean, it worked. And if I had to do it again using this, I probably could get a better result on it. And I was going to show you that, but this works so much better, I really didn't want to go back to that. This takes heavier cuts and it could travel at a faster speed. So even though it's smaller and you have to take more passes, it probably took less time because it travels faster and you could take deeper cuts with it. I was taking 15 to 20 thou with this, and with this I could only take 6, 8 before it really started to complain. So this would probably be okay on aluminum, not so much on steel. But anyway, and these were both, I'm sure these were both Amazon $100 things. I bought this a long, long time ago to use with the 3-in-1, and not particularly effective on the 3-in-1. I assumed when I bought it, there's socket head screws in here to set the depth of the cutters. And being an amateur new machinist, I assumed these were set up wrong. They were not. This thing cut shitty, and the cutters were all set at different heights. What I ended up doing was putting the face mill in the mill, putting a 1, 2, 3 block underneath it, and just using a feeler gauge. I got about 1/1000th and a half, because that's the smallest feeler gauge I have, about 1/1000th and a half clearance between the 1, 2, 3 block and the feeler gauge. So a 1.5 won't go in, but a 2 wouldn't. So these are all within 1/2,000th of each other. And yeah, it worked pretty good. I mean, you could see the result right here. I'm pretty happy with that. So setting the depth of your carbides, very important. Don't skip that step. You'll need to do it. I think once it's been set, it'll stay set for quite a while. But anyway, very handy to have. This, I'm glad I have it. I got a smaller one too, which I use a lot more often, and it works better. I think this is really just too big for my machine. But anyway, I'm glad I have it, because somewhere down the road I'm going to have to flatten off a piece of aluminum, and this is what I'm going to end up using probably. And with that, I am out of here. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. We'll see you next time. Have a good one. Just a quick reminder. You can help support and grow this channel, first of all and most importantly, by hitting that subscribe button. So if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you'd like to do a little more, join me on Patreon. Links down below. So go ahead and join me on Patreon if you feel so inclined. And finally, coffee cups, stickers, and gas tank covers are available. This is a new design coffee cup. I like the old ones, but I like these new ones even better. Links will be provided in the description down below. Get yourself some. And thank you all ever so much for watching these videos. I really appreciate it. Bye.